everyone. Thanks for having me here today. And this is an amazing opportunity for all of us because we haven't gotten together all too often, and our journeys are different. So you'll hear a little bit about what we do in Halton, which is actually very different from the others at the table here today. So I'll go through what the Halton Poverty Roundtable is, what the Halton Community Benefits Network is, an overview of our purpose and objectives, our organizational milestones to date, and the path forward for the next rest of this year and into the future. So my slides are a little bit out of order for some reason, but I'll continue to go through them. So the who we are and what we do. So the Halton Poverty Roundtable is comprised of regional change makers. We are literally a roundtable of community organizations who come together on a quarterly basis to talk about poverty, the complexity of poverty, and how we can eliminate poverty in our community. So we are an organization that works to shed light on all aspects of poverty in Halton and highlight the reality of poverty in our neighborhoods. As you may know, Halton is comprised of Oakville, Burlington, Milton, and Halton Hills. Those communities are generally referred to as affluent and prosperous. So there is that difficult barrier to overcome for our organization to actually make awareness of poverty an issue, make it relevant to people who don't see it. So we don't see the poverty that you see in Toronto or Hamilton. However, it is very much in our community. We have over 44,000 people living below the low-income measure in our community. It's just that it's not seen, so it's not recognized, and therefore no action is ever taken. So we are hoping to connect, educate, and act together with the aim of eliminating poverty in our community, but also raising awareness that it does exist. The Halton Community Benefits Network is an initiative under the Halton Poverty Roundtable. We have deep roots in our community due to the relationships that we have existing as the Halton Poverty Roundtable, and we have a diverse and extensive network of community partnerships. So we actually came, I'm going to go off script, we actually came together as an organization because we wanted to do this work. We had not had a project in Halton that has been announced, or at the time wasn't announced. We've been together for about 2 years, and we just knew this work was coming. There was something that was, the momentum was moving, and once something happens, you can't stop it, so we wanted to get ahead of that and really be sure that we were at the table, ready to organize when the time came for us in Halton. So the purpose of our group initially was to educate the public about the concept of community benefit agreements, to advocate for community benefit agreements to be included in large infrastructure projects in Halton Region. So like I said, we didn't have an LRT or anything like that. We just wanted it. And we wanted to show that there was value in doing this kind of work. So we wanted to activate community partners to prepare for their low-income clients, for employment, for newly created jobs that would occur, and with the goal of generating a significant social impact. So the objective is to support the providers and anchor institutions in Halton Region in the development and adoption of community benefits agreements, the work of intermediaries and beneficiaries to facilitate the activation of employment opportunities resulting from social procurement and community benefits agreements in Halton. So this is a little bit of our journey to date. So the Atkinson Foundation delivered a community presentation in 2015 about community benefits and decent work, and this is where the idea was really incubated in our community. We took this on as something that was something that we wanted to continue to see and pursue in our community. So in 2016, we applied for the Ontario Trillium Foundation grant, which we were successful at getting, and that really was our first opportunity to meet and explore CBAs in Halton Region. What opportunities existed, what might be coming down the pipeline, really engaging with our local politicians and seeing what we can do collaboratively together and work for change. So in 2017, the brand was developed and our chair presented to Halton Region Executive Committee. So the regional level of government, we have a two-tier system of government in Halton Region. So, and this falls underneath the jurisdiction of, well, everyone, but really Halton Region. So we presented to Halton Region about the concept. And in 2018, we hosted a week-long conference on community benefits agreements with expert Sandra Hamilton. She came from British Columbia. She is what she likes to call, she has a social MBA. So she focuses on the social bottom line on community benefits agreements and social procurement. So we hosted that conference in the spring, and we actually were awarded one of the 5 provincial pilot projects for the consolidated courthouse. So a courthouse, in Halton. They're creating, the province is developing and going to be constructing a new 21-room courthouse facility, and that is now one of the 5 pilot projects that will be happening in the province. So this is different than the horizontal builds of an LRT. This is a vertical build, and in Halton, it's actually in the middle of nowhere. So it's really difficult, and I'll talk about the difficulties, why that's a challenge in a little bit, but really because no one cares. Like, there's no community around it, no one's being impacted, there's not businesses being affected. So it's kind of like, courthouse, we need one, great. But why do we care about the dollars that are being invested in our community is what we want the community to really activate on, and have our politicians and everyone else follow on board. So that's a little bit different of why we're different and why we all do different things. And so in the future, we're going to prepare to build the courthouse, and we're going to continue to advocate for that community benefits agreements and what that looks like and what we would like to see along with our community. And we're going to propose some other options for community benefits in Halton as well as things arise. There is some talk about a Metrolinx hub in Milton, and we'll see what else we can get as a pilot to prove that this is a valuable effort for the community. So what we're doing going forward, we're trying to scale up our efforts. So Halton is right beside Hamilton, right beside Peel, right beside Toronto. So how can we scale up our efforts to really have that collective impact in advocating and implementing CBAs? So lessons learned, coming together to foster policy and program development. We are less of an advocating community than maybe some of the others. We are a bedroom community of both Hamilton and Toronto. So the people who live in Halton don't necessarily become super involved in issues like this. So how can we foster that, and how can we learn from others to really have that community grassroots level developed? So pilot the concept, which we really would like to do. We have been having conversations with the Ministry of Infrastructure and the Attorney General on the courthouse. Those conversations were prior to the government going through the election period, and we are now trying to re-engage them to ensure that this project will continue as promised by the last government. So we are still in waiting and see mode on that, but we're continuing to follow up every once in a while. Stakeholder engagement. So we're going to continue to educate and convene meetings with anchor institutions, connector groups, organizations, and beneficiaries to prepare for practical implementation of community benefits agreements. These include Halton Region, the towns, the 4 municipalities, the Sheridan colleges in our area, the hospitals, and other broader public sector organizations, as well as organizations such as the Multicultural Council, Employment Services, the YMCA, Employment Services, Goodwill, all of those kind of littler, smaller organizations that actually will be involved in the process. We're trying to get everyone up to speed on what would need to happen. And we're really looking for a hub or a parent to take on this work with us. And then community dialogue, so continue to bring this issue to the forefront. So key issues and opportunities. So Halton projects to demonstrate results and lessons learned. So really what we need is something to show value and show that this is a great thing for our residents. And so without having something that we can actually pilot and prove, that is difficult to have results. Funding for convening, consulting, and implementation. So as we all know, funding is a difficult thing to get. And especially in this area, there are few who are willing to fund such endeavors. There are some great partners that we have had in the past, such as the Atkinson Foundation, the Ontario Trillium Foundation, and the Oakville Community Foundation. But there is a big need for this kind of work. And because it's provincial-wide and now federally being adopted, maybe this is something that can be included in the community benefits agreements right in the contract. And that's something that we're looking at doing, if that's possible, to actually make sure that the community is well represented and funded accordingly, so therefore are able to attend community sessions. And I know that there are issues with transportation, childcare, and others, to have people with lived experience come and contribute their voice to these conversations and these dialogues. So having those opportunities be well funded and accessible to everyone will allow for all voices to be heard at the table. And finding the right partner for scale-up efforts. So that is a difficult task sometimes, especially in Halton. There are many players. There's just no forefront player that's coming to the table yet. Many other organizations across the province have had a United Way or similar type organization come in and really help out with the structure. It takes a lot of effort to get this moving. And so we are currently looking for the right partner to scale up our efforts as well. And then obviously execution, when the time comes, we'll be ready to go and be able to prove results. And so that's kind of where we're at in Halton. We're still kind of wait and see mode, but we're kind of ready to go, hit the ground running, and we're happy to learn from our partners here at the table today. So thanks, and I'm open to questions later on.